And I'm Pat Donner. I'm with EPA and have been since 1984, but I've been in the game for nearly 38 years. And my experience is from local county government through up into international with US and Canada and the World Health Association. I can't say it. But I think the critical thing is that I've been involved with the Bay program, the Gulf program, Puget Sound, the big regional programs of EPA, and seen some really wonderful things happening through those programs. I don't want to point at any one because each has unique successes, and they've done it in different ways. The one thing that I would point to is a pioneering effort that we put together at EPA to do an online dialogue in 2000 on our policy, on the development of our policy on public involvement. And that succeeded in ways I never imagined because it created networks of people who talk to each other. We didn't get a whole lot for the policy because of the way things are structured in government. You can't take comments directly. At least we couldn't then. They had to take what they said, put it in a message, put that into our actual comments. That's changed. I think that will be changing. But I think the fact that we did the work to bring over 1,000 people into a dialogue is pretty amazing.
Hi, I'm Sarah Cunningham. I'm with the National Endowment for the Arts. I'm the Director of Arts Education. I've been at the endowment for 4 years, so I'm a new federal employee, so maybe you have stories for me. But I've been involved in school building for about 10 years. I was involved in the charter school movement. I'm trained as a philosopher, so I have a doctorate in philosophy, and I run a project at the NEA where education leaders in the states design public education with arts as a central feature of that public education design. And so that's kind of probably why I'm here, I think. But there's a lot of philosophical grounding in that. But the endowment also runs programs in communities, 400 communities, do a big READ project. We do Mayor's Institute on City Design, which has been involved in Katrina and the Gulf Coast region, and we also work with governors. Our Education Design Initiative works with lieutenant governors and state officials, as well as citizens from different interested parties in the states to really talk about how we see public education developing and evolving. So I'm delighted to be here, and I thank you for the invitation.
I'm Kewen with the Federal Highway Administration, and I've been involved in public participation, public engagement longer than my federal career, and probably even before I started working in local government. I would say it probably goes back to when I was in college and some of the activities I had on the student paper. So, fairly long time, longer than my career. The Sherwin experience, there was an activity I was involved in probably 3 or 4 years ago. It was collaborative workshops, multi-agency, multiple state agencies, multiple federal agencies around engaging planning and environmental issues at large scale. And I was involved in the design of this and went to a number of these workshops in different states. And there was that moment, it didn't come in all the workshops that I attended, and it came at different places, but it was a moment where there was a certain level of discomfort in the room. And at that point, you could see people learn something about themselves and their agencies and the processes they were involved in a new light. And I thought that was really a fantastic thing and almost, you know, part of what you wanted to design in. So anyway, that was the one experience I wanted to share. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Roger Bernier. I'm an epidemiologist at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. And I've been in this field now about 5 years. I'm a relative newcomer compared to many of you. And I got involved in this as a result of an experience I had at a congressional hearing when I was told by one of the parents, we were there talking about vaccines and autism, and one of the parents told me that our research from CDC was dead on arrival. And as a scientist, that phrase stuck in my mind and made me realize that more research and more data was really not going to solve this problem that it was about a trust issue, and it had to do with relationships between our agency and some segments of the public. And so I asked to go on a sabbatical assignment. There's no such thing in government, but I was allowed to go away for a year to do my own thing, so to speak. It became 2 years, and as a result of that, we developed a model for engaging the public, which we've been able to pilot test a few times since then. I think the thing that made a big impression on me, there's been several, but one of them was the last experience. We were not really able to work on vaccines and autism for a variety of reasons, and so started looking at other areas where there are difficult decisions that government has to make, and usually they're around where values collide and there's no scientifically right answer. I think it's an area where the public can be very helpful to decision makers. One of those was around pandemic influenza, and the question was, who should be vaccinated first in a pandemic? If that was the bell, Joe, I guess I'm almost there. Anyway, on that difficult decision, Secretary Leavitt, when he issued, HHS Secretary, when he issued the guidance, he said, this policy is the result of a deliberative democratic process and represents the best of shared decision making and responsibility. So I could see where that public involvement actually made it to the level of the department and was cited.
I'm Brian Bellendorf. Thank you, Beth, for the introduction. I am not a digital native, but I like to say I was born on the boat ride over. I very quickly in college started to pick up these tools of the internet, basically, and discovered while doing this in the early 90s that all these technologies we have are the result of what you could want is perhaps one take on civic engagement. They were built by the technologists, built by peers working together on common technologies and common protocols. It wasn't just handed down by one company. And so my career since then has been focused largely on open source software. I was a founder of the Apache project. I've been involved with the Mozilla project. Started a company to build open source communities, public ones as well as private ones. And so my examples are going to necessarily be from that space, perhaps. I could talk about Sahana, which was a open source disaster relief coordination package built after the Asian tsunami. I could talk about Mifos, which was, again, a collaboratively built open source package for microfinance organizations to do bookkeeping and accounting. But perhaps the one that sticks out in my head is my friend Christian Einfeld, who is an independent consultant, works a little, maybe 5-10 hours a week doing, IT consulting in San Francisco, and spends the majority of his time in public schools in San Francisco, getting them wired up with Linux. And he takes computers that have been donated to him or provided to him through the ACCRC, Alameda County Computer Recycling Center, which are too slow to run Vista, too slow to run XP, but can perfectly fine run Linux. He installs them, he trains the teachers, trains the students, shows them the cool apps, and then one day a year on Software Freedom Day, gives a lecture about, hey, this is software that you have, but you also have the ability to change it, and isn't that cool, and why is that important? And so we need a lot more Christian Einfelds.